When I look back on that chapter of our lives, I realize now that the small events can sometimes reshape an entire family. At the time, it seemed ordinary, almost forgettable, and quiet. Sunday evening, in a modest home tucked away in Ohio, the sky was painted with fading shades of gold and lavender. The kind off colors that make the world feel briefly at peace, as if the earth itself were exhaling after a long week. None of us could have guessed that what began so simply a back massage offered in passing would become the beginning of something far greater. 3 years had passed since loss had hollowed out the center of our family. The sharp sting of grief had dulled, but its weight never left out. It lingered in every silence at that dinner table, in the empty chair, no wondered move, and in the way my mother carried herself, still trying to be everything at once. She worked tirelessly at the local library, then came home to tend to us, never complaining, but each day carving deeper lines of weariness into her face. That night, she was slumped on the living room couch, shoulders sagging, eyes half closed with fatigue. My younger brother sat at the dining table, tapping his pencil against his math homework while I scrolled idly on my phone. At some point, I noticed her hand drift to her neck, the subtle W she tried to hide as she rolled her shoulders. Something in me tightened. Without thinking, I set the phone as it and asked softly if her back hurt again. She smiled in that gentle way of hers, but the truth slipped through. "It's nothing," she said, brushing it off like she always did. But it wasn't nothing. Years of lifting, reaching, carrying more than her body or her heart should have to. She never asked for help. She never thought she could. Before I even realized the words had left my mouth, I offered, "Let me try. Maybe a massage will help." My brother looked up, smirking, amused at the thought. She shook her head at first, insisting she didn't want to trouble me, but I pressed her. "Just a few minutes. She'd deserve it that much." Reluctantly, she turned and I placed my hands on her tired shoulders. At first, it felt awkward, clumsy. Then I remembered how my father used to do this for her, how she would melt into his touch, the tension slipping away. I tried to copy that memory, pressing gently at first, then firmer, moving in slow circles. Her reaction was immediate. She exhaled so deeply it felt as though she had been holding her breath for years. And that sound, I heard more than relief. I heard the breaking open of something she had been carrying in silence. Grief, responsibility, loneliness, all the invisible burdens of trying to be both mother and father. My brother came closer, abandoning his homework touch. Then, in his clumsy but sincere way, he asked if he could help too. And so, with a kind of awkward teamwork, Whippeth pressed out her tired muscles. It must have looked ridiculous. But in that ridiculousness, laughter broke out, louder, not the polite kind. Not the kind that hides pain. The kind that fills a room and makes it feel like home again. That evening, something shifted. The massage wasn't just about easing sore muscles. It became a language of love. A symbol of care that words alone couldn't carry. From that night on, a ritual was born. Every Sunday evening, we gathered in the living room. Sometimes she would massage our hands or feet while we worked on her shoulders. Would talk about everything and nothing, school memories of the past. Silly jokes, even fragile dreams for the future. Those evenings became sacred. They weren't about relaxation, they were about healing. Each touch, each laugh, each story stitched us back together in ways we hadn't realized were still broken. The house felt warmer, lighter. The grief never disappeared, but it softened. For the first time since the loss, we felt wholly gain. What none of us understood then was that this little ritual born out of exhaustion and a simple act of care will ripple outward, changing not just us, but those around us. Because love, when given freely, has a way of multiplying far beyond the walls where it begins.